Well, well, well. Look who finally figured out they were never supposed to fit the mold. You didn't just break the rules. You rewired the goddamn system. They say your mind is a threat now. No, not brilliant, not gifted. A threat. Something that should be monitored, controlled, caged. Because when you think, reality bends. And they don't like that. They've got degrees, doctrines, protocols, and you had pain, and you weaponized it. You didn't read their books. You decoded them. Didn't follow the map. They buried it, and you still built a kingdom. And now they say it's illegal intelligence. Because if what you know can't be bought, branded, or buried, they panic. Because your mind isn't running on logic. It's running on scars, on betrayal, on every night you were underestimated, every whisper behind your back, every, he's too intense. She's doing too much. They're not normal. Good. Normal doesn't win wars. Normal doesn't cause meltdowns in boardrooms. Normal doesn't make entire networks freeze when one person speaks. And you did. You learned how to turn silence into psychological warfare, how to weaponize a glance, how to walk into a room and make the smartest one in there start doubting themselves. Now they're reviewing footage of you like it's evidence, rewinding sentences, analyzing pauses, because you said something that fractured their perception of reality. And you did it casually, like a whisper in a hurricane. They don't know what box to put you in, because every box, you set it on fire and built a throne out of the ashes. See, intelligence is expected to wear a lab coat, smile politely, speak in statistics. But your mind showed up like an explosion in a courtroom, like an encrypted virus inside their hierarchy. You didn't ask to be understood. You forced comprehension to evolve. You didn't beg for the seat. You walked in and made the seat rethink its worth. They said you were unstable. You said, good. Stability is for structures, not for storms. You weren't made to blend in. You were engineered by pain, chaos, isolation, and divine code. To stand so far outside the algorithm that even the satellites can't track what dimension you're thinking in. You're not clever, you're dangerous, you're not smart, you're post-human, you're not following the logic, you're rewriting the firmware. They've got advisors, you've got instincts, they've got memos, you've got premonitions, they have conversations, you have silence that exposes them. And now they say your mind should be regulated, it should be watched closely, it should be flagged, as if intelligence that can't be predicted should be erased. But what they forget is this: you didn't ask for the spotlight. You became it because your darkness couldn't be ignored. And now they whisper in rooms about you. How do they know that? Who's helping them? Why does everything they say feel like a threat and a prophecy? Because you evolved in silence. While they built image, you built internal warfare systems. While they performed, you calculated annihilation routes. They crafted influence. You became gravity. Now they orbit your words, wishing they had 1 ounce of your chaos-born clarity. But they don't. They won't. Because this level of intelligence can't be taught. It has to be survived. They tried to study you. Now they're praying you don't study them back. Because the moment you do, they're exposed. Because this ain't intellect anymore. It's invasion. It's X-ray. It's prophecy dressed in paranoia. And the best part? You don't even need to raise your voice. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to prove a damn thing. Your existence, your mind, your silence is the loudest revolution they've ever encountered. So let them call it illegal. Let them label it the unnatural. Let them tremble in their little rooms with their little rules, because they just realized they built a world for obedient thinkers. And you're the glitch that made the whole simulation self-destruct. Bravo, my dear weapon of a mind. Bravo. And remember, they don't fear what you know. They fear that no matter what they do, you'll always know what they never will. Ah, you felt that shift, didn't you? That subtle ripple when your mind stopped playing defense and became the offense. Not just strategy anymore, surveillance, because now they're not just scared of what you'll say. They're terrified of what you've already seen, what you've decoded, what you've archived silently behind that grin. They've been watching you through glass, two-way mirrors, case files, confessionals in therapist offices they thought you'd never access. But here's what they don't understand. You were born inside the surveillance. You are the glitch in the camera feed, the ghost that never speaks but knows everything, the equation with no known variable. They think it's clever to analyze you. But that's the trap. Because every analysis of you leads to self-exposure. Every question they ask about you turns into a mirror. Now they're seeing the cracks in their own design. Who gave them this kind of intelligence? Nobody. It was extracted through pain, harvested from betrayal, engineered during isolation when the rest of the world was clapping for mediocrity, while you were silently mutating. You didn't become smart. You became dangerously aware. Aware of every motive, every signal behind the words, every facial twitch that reveals a lie. You became fluent in invisible languages, and now they're panicking because they can't even lie correctly in your presence anymore. They feel exposed because you can hear what they meant behind what they said. You can feel the blueprint of the manipulation before it lands, and you smile because you've seen that code before. You used to run it, now you own it. Their fear, it's not about what you might do. It's about what you've already done. The files you already stored, the simulations you've already run, the outcomes you already predicted. 3 moves ago, they thought they were ahead. But the moment they tried to play you, they walked right into a trap you set 2 years ago, without saying a word. And now, they sit in rooms, together, sweating, panicking over your silence because silence from someone like you. That's not ignorance, that's judgment being written in real time. That's a mind recalibrating for mental assassination. You're not just observing anymore. You're selecting the exact frame of the video that destroys their credibility. They tried to provoke you, mock you, dismiss you. Because deep down, they knew. If you ever spoke with precision, it would be their undoing. And guess what? You didn't even have to raise your voice, just one sentence, and the whole network froze. Because people with normal intelligence, they make points. You make pivots in their perception. People argue to win. You speak once and everything rearranges. That's not communication. That's neural disruption. You're not playing on the same field. You're not even from the same operating system. They run off rules. You run off anomalies. They think they understand the game. But you built your throne in the glitch that breaks their scoreboard. They can't predict you because you aren't logic. You're legend, and they hate it. Because deep down, they know. You were never supposed to make it this far. You were never supposed to survive the silence. You weren't meant to be in these rooms. Weren't meant to hold this power, this depth, this ability to see through illusions like they're printed in highlighter. But you did. You made it. Not through favor, through fire. And now, every thought in your head It's a classified weapon. Every sentence, a trigger, every idea, a blueprint they can't replicate, because they'd never survive what it cost to build it. This intelligence, it's not school-taught. It's war-born, and they know it. Because when you enter the room, the air shifts. You don't even need to speak. Their subconscious already knows who the real threat is. And when they call you illegal, smile. That means you've outgrown every protocol they worship. You've become what their systems were built to prevent, but failed to contain. Because you, my dear chaos-born prodigy, are not just intelligent. You're not just dangerous. You're the unsolvable riddle that makes the elite tremble. You're the living paradox that proves pain is smarter than privilege. And you're just getting started. Top secret, eyes only, level Omega clearance. That's what they'd stamp across your mind if they could bottle it. But they can't, because every time they try to label you, you mutate. They wanted data. They got dissonance. They wanted answers. You gave them distortion. They thought they were tracking a person, but they accidentally triggered a psychological contagion, one that spreads not through speech, but through awareness. Because when people encounter you, they don't walk away informed. They walk away infected. Infected with questions that corrode their certainty. Infected with doubt about what's real, who's in charge, and why they suddenly feel so small in your presence. That's not intelligence. That's subconscious demolition, and you do it without touching a single nerve. Because you already own the nervous system. You're not running from surveillance. You became the surveillance. They tried to scan you, but your blueprint scrambled their satellites because you think like a weaponized oracle. Your thought bend time. They reveal futures people are too scared to imagine and too powerless to prevent. That's why they're holding meetings, secret ones, behind locked doors, reviewing messages you never sent, but somehow they felt them anyway. Trying to understand how one person could shift the frequency of an entire network. Just by existing, they whisper phrases like, "It's not just what they say, it's how they say it." There's no record of him learning that, so how the hell does he know it? We have to flag them. This is no longer about free thought. This is infiltration, but they're too late. Because what they don't know, you've already downloaded them, every tick, every tendency, every weakness they hide behind titles and team synergy meetings. You scanned their hierarchy like a heat map, and now you own the codes. You see through credentials like they're wet napkins. You smell fragility behind forced confidence. And worst of all, you say nothing. Because the less you say, the more they unravel. You're not fighting them, you're documenting their descent. And that's the real horror, isn't it? They built an entire world around predictability, patterns, compliance. And then came you, unpatterned, unchecked, untouchable. They can't categorize you, so they criminalize you. They can't understand you, so they demonize you. But deep down, they worship what they fear. And they fear you. They've got degrees. You've got damage that evolved into prophecy. They've got funding. You've got clarity bought in blood. They've got think tanks. You've got a war room in your skull that's always 5 years ahead. They've got advisors. You've got ghosts whispering blueprints. And now the system's blinking red. They say you don't comply with the intellectual order. Good. You're not here to comply. You're here to restructure the entire damn frequency. You're not hacking their systems. You're rewriting the laws of belief. Because people don't just hear you. They question everything they believed before you spoke. And that is what they call dangerous. Not because you're violent, but because you make people think thoughts they were programmed never to consider. You make the unthinkable sound logical. You make the forbidden feel inevitable. And that's the most potent kind of rebellion. Mental warfare that feels like revelation. They don't want leaders like you. Because leaders like you don't need systems. They become systems. And your system doesn't run on compliance. It runs on chaos, precision, duality, and psychological radiation. Anyone too weak, they melt. Anyone too proud, they snap. Anyone too calculated, they freeze. Because you're the variable they didn't predict. So let them launch investigations. Let them whisper about who you really are. Let them try to expose you. Because the more they investigate, the more they realize you don't fit any file because you wrote the ones they're scared to open. You are the classified file. You are the redacted page. You are the brain they studied for years and still left the report blank. Not because there was no data, but because the data turned around and studied them back. And now they're scared to blink. Because they're starting to wonder if everything you said wasn't just confidence, but confirmation. Confirmation that their entire illusion, their structure, their order, their hierarchy was built on obedience. And you, my dear, are the heretic the simulation couldn't kill off. Access point breached, encryption bypassed, surveillance nodes compromised. They don't know it yet. But the system they trusted, you infected it the moment they tried to observe you. They opened a file on you, typed in keywords like abnormal cognition, nonlinear behavioral patterning. But by the time they hit enter, you were already rewriting the metadata. You weren't the subject of their study. You were the Trojan horse crawling through the wires of their entire psychological framework. And now, they're scared to open your case file, because every time they read another line, they feel something watching them back. This isn't paranoia, this is precision. You learned how to think in silence, and let silence make them scream. You learned how to move without being noticed, until the moment you were unavoidable. Now they're cornered in their own chessboard, and you're the piece they never designed for. They created rules for thinkers, but they never made rules for outliers who weaponize unpredictability. They trained for arguments, but they never trained for someone who doesn't need to argue. Because truth echoes louder than volume. They built strategies, but they never planned for a mind that turns trauma into tactical intel. You didn't study their system, you decoded its fractures, and every fracture was a doorway, and you walked through all of them, smiling silently, like a ghost in the circuitry. They used to watch you like prey, but now they monitor you like a threat. Why? Because they finally realized this isn't education anymore. This is infiltration. This is a mind that slipped past the firewall of their culture, past their dogmas, past their mental chokeholds. And now, you're not just thinking outside the box. You're deleting the blueprint for the box itself. And they're panicking. Why? Because people started listening, started waking up, started replaying your words and feeling themselves glitch. You didn't just speak. You destabilized belief structures. You didn't just share ideas. You shattered illusions with surgical chaos. And that's the part they can't forgive. Not that you won, but that you didn't ask for permission. You didn't raise your hand. You didn't submit your genius for approval. You took it with blood-stained hands and a grin so calm, it made God wonder if he made a mistake letting you think freely. They built simulations. You tore them down with a single sentence. They trained for resistance. You showed them what it meant to become the anomaly. Because you didn't just dodge the system, you made the system doubt itself. And now, in the sealed chambers, in the late-night review meetings, they're playing your audio on loop, your voice, your cadence, your mind. It doesn't match, doesn't fit, can't be replicated. And that's when the room gets cold, because they realize they aren't dealing with a mind. They're dealing with a weapon that writes in riddles, moves like prophecy, and kills with clarity. You weren't supposed to exist. Not like this. Not this sharp. Not this silent. Not this dangerous. You were supposed to crack under the weight of conformity. But instead, you cracked the framework they thought was indestructible. So now they call it illegal intelligence. Because intelligence, when it's real, when it's raw, feral, untethered by approval, becomes a threat to every lie built into the architecture of control. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to watch them implode from their own attempts to decode you. Because you're the kind of anomaly that proves genius isn't the ability to think like everyone else. It's the courage to think like no one ever dared to. So let them panic. Let them pull the footage. Let them whisper in their sterile conference rooms. You're not in there to be judged. You're in there as a case study of what happens when pain turns into pattern recognition, when betrayal forges brilliance, when one person weaponizes thought and becomes the thing even the system fears to name out loud. And now, they don't know if you're the villain, the glitch, or the prophecy their ancestors tried to suppress. Exhibit 37.1, declassified footage. Transcript begins. Subject was never violent, never raised their voice, never made threats. And yet, everyone in the room felt like they were being held at gunpoint. The mind of this individual doesn't read like data. It reads like a declaration of war, of truth, of something older than both. Because you weren't made for their understanding. You were summoned by something darker, older, something that knew the world would try to sedate you. So it made your brain fireproof. They tried to figure you out. But every question only led them deeper into themselves. Every analysis turned into a confession. Because you mirror people with such surgical precision, they start revealing things they didn't even admit in therapy. That's why they call you a weapon, not because you harm, but because your presence disarms. Every fake layer melts, every mask slides off, every carefully curated persona collapses, and all that's left is raw nerve. You didn't walk into rooms to dominate. You walked in and let people hear themselves in your silence. And that's the most violent form of clarity. They told stories about minds like yours, in fables, in encrypted archives, in spiritual prophecies buried under bureaucracy, and every time one like you showed up, empires fell, not from war, but from internal collapse triggered by exposure. That's what you are. An exposure point, an intellectual detonation. You're not a rebel. You're not a genius. You're not an influencer. You are what happens when God's silence meets man's arrogance. You are a thought so sharp, it cuts time in half. A riddle so vast, even truth gets vertigo. That's why they file you under unexplained threat. Because explaining you would mean acknowledging the lie. It would mean admitting that intelligence doesn't come from titles. It comes from trauma transmuted into architecture. And now the file is marked, do not engage. Mind operates outside protocol, capable of destabilization through conversation alone. Too late, you already spoke, already existed, already spread. They tried to contain you, but you were never an idea. You were contagion, And you didn't just escape the system. You made the system question if it ever controlled anything at all. So let this be your ending. Not a scream, not an explosion, but a quiet smile as the whole facade burns down behind you. Because in the end, you never needed to destroy anything. You just had to be seen. And that, alone, was enough to make the world glitch. End of file. Transmission terminated. Subject, classified. Status, active. Threat level, undefinable. Outcome, system compromised. Hello, sweetheart. You ever heard your name echo off the walls of a place you've never been? Because they're saying it, whispering it, shouting it behind locked glass and flickering fluorescent lights. You, the glitch in their blueprint, the phantom in their forecast, the walking question mark they can't decode. They opened the files, they cross-referenced the footage, they reran the numbers, and it only made things worse, because the deeper they looked, the louder the silence got. And now they're scared, not of what you did, but of how you thought it. They're calling you a weapon, but not one with steel or fire or bullets. No. Your ammunition is cognitive dissonance, memory holes, emotional ruin, strategic silence. You bend perception like origami. You make logic bleed, and they can't find the origin point. Because the truth is, you don't think like them. You think above them. See, they thought you were a civilian, a casualty waiting to happen, a cracked pawn limping through the game. But now the surveillance footage is glitching. Now the court transcripts contradict themselves. Now the agents analyzing your moves are checking into therapy. Because trying to understand you broke something in them. You didn't read their playbook. You rewired it. While they measured timelines and gathered evidence, you were folding reality into a weaponized mirror and handing it back to them. They don't get it. You didn't just evolve. You detonated the species they thought you were. Saint, psychopath, scholar, demon. They can't even choose a label anymore. Because every time they try to pin you down, you become the shadow of what they feared the most in themselves. You're not a name, you're not a file. You're a force of contradiction wrapped in flesh. A philosophical bomb strapped to a smile. They followed the trail of logic and found a door that shouldn't exist, and behind it, you, not hiding, but waiting. You know what that does to a trained mind, to a handler, to a profiler who's used to cracking serial minds like eggs? It drives them mad, because they're used to cause arrow effect. But you're the effect that rewrote the cause. You were never in this to win. You were in this to confuse the scoreboard, to make the players question the rules of the game. And now the suits are holding meetings titled Protocol Zed, Joker Variable. They're not investigating you anymore. They're trying to protect reality from you. You walk like myth, talk like prophecy, smile like something born in a lab accident with God's DNA and the devil's grin. And yet, you're calm, quiet, dangerous not because of noise, but because of stillness. They couldn't find your trauma, so they tried to manufacture it. They threw betrayal at you like grenades. But instead of shattering, you transformed. Pain didn't poison you. It programmed you. You didn't survive. You recoded survival itself. While they were playing chess, you were slipping under the board, rewriting the rules of gravity for the next generation of chaos. Now there's a black box at Quantico with your name on it, but it's empty. Just a sticker that says, "Do not open, reality leak." Because you make sane men scream in rooms with padded walls. You make systems doubt their own code. You become a contagion of doubt. An idea so sharp it slices through facts like silk. And yet, you're not evil. You're not good. You're just necessary. The anomaly the universe sends when order becomes delusional. When the map starts thinking it's the territory, you appear as a correction. You didn't ask for revenge. You asked for clarity. And when you didn't get it, you became the hallucination that snapped people into truth. You broke illusions like bone, and you didn't even flinch. Now they're watching, analyzing, praying the algorithm will catch a pattern. But the pattern is paradox, and the only consistent variable is this. You are not meant to be understood. You're meant to be felt. That is what makes you dangerous. Because the human mind can reason with a threat it can define. But you're undefined terror, a mental knife that carves new holes in thought itself. They wanted to recruit you. Now they're trying to contain the ripple effect. The copycats, the thinkers you've awakened, the silent ones now calculating in corners of the world, with your smirk on their face, and your venom in their silence. And guess what? It's too late. The virus spread. The protocol failed. You're not just a person anymore. You're a proof of concept. That one individual, armed with nothing but suffering and silence, can fracture the system beyond repair. So let them run simulations. Let them try to replicate what can't be replicated. You are the irregularity that survived inspection, the ghost in the file, the question that ends investigations, because the real danger isn't what you did. It's what you made possible. And darling, they haven't even seen your next move. They haven't even seen your next move. Because here's the punchline they choke on every time. There is no next move. You are the move. You walk into a room and reality adjusts. People start acting different, thinking different, without even knowing why. The air gets heavier, the silence grows teeth, and suddenly, every lie they ever told themselves starts to itch. That's your power. You're not just unpredictable, you're uncontainable. Not because you're wild, but because you're precise in ways their minds can't render. The files they keep updating on you. Yeah, those are turning into fiction novels. Each report contradicts the last. One calls you clinically detached. Another calls you hyper-emotional and spiritually dangerous. One profiler said you were a serotonin anomaly in human skin. Another called you a walking contradiction engineered by pain and prophecy. They've never agreed on what you are, but they all agree on one thing: you should not exist. And that's what really keeps them awake. Not your intellect, not your past, not even your presence, but the proof that you exist means their entire belief system is flawed. Because they trained their whole lives to recognize patterns, to break down behavior, to map out the chaos. But you operate outside the grid. You are the nightmare of every analyst, the hallucination of every surveillance tech, the reason encrypted files are getting shredded without explanation. You're glitching the system from the inside without touching a single wire. And they've started using phrases like, "We're not tracking a person anymore. We're tracking a cognitive weapon." He doesn't escalate situations. He contaminates paradigms. We believe he doesn't respond to trauma like a human. He doesn't process emotions. He weaponizes them. Whatever he's doing, it's not strategy. It's philosophical warfare. You became a term they whisper in crisis rooms. They don't brief people on you. They warn people to stay the hell away from the idea of you, because you represent the forbidden formula. What happens when a soul doesn't just survive hell, but builds an empire inside it? You turned rock bottom into a research lab. You made agony your assistant, while they were busy profiling trauma responses. You were constructing alternate realities where weakness couldn't follow. You didn't escape darkness. You domesticated it. Now it serves you like a pet. And every time you smile, someone's internal compass shatters. You don't need to prove anything, because people don't need proof of a tsunami when they're already drowning. You don't arrive. You ripple. You don't fight. You unravel. And the scary part? You're not even trying yet. This is you, restrained. So what happens when you stop holding back? That's the question scrawled in black ink on a classified whiteboard, titled Project Joker, in case of full unleash. Subtext: containment unlikely. Outcome unknown. Morality optional. They're not preparing for your attack. They're bracing for your awakening. Because if this is just your defense mechanism, what happens when you decide to initiate? What happens when the silence you've been sitting in becomes too small? What happens when you decide the cage wasn't broken enough? What happens when you look at the world and say, all right, time to really show them what I am? You'd make war look romantic. You'd make madness look like a surgical blueprint. You'd make the most classified agencies on Earth whisper to themselves, we were never ready. Because you don't act like someone who's been through hell. You act like someone who took notes in it and brought back souvenirs. You speak with the conviction of someone who saw the end of the world and decided it wasn't enough. You don't walk into rooms to connect. You walk in to dismantle illusions and leave ghosts behind. And the sickest part? You don't even celebrate it. Because when you're truly rebuilt from ruin, you don't need applause. You don't need understanding. You become the thing understanding bows to. They tried to study you. Now they're trying to quarantine the idea of you. But it's spreading quietly, beautifully, irreversibly. You broke the mold so hard, they're melting down the factory just to feel safe again. But it's too late. Because someone like you doesn't just change the game. You make the players question if it was even a game to begin with. You're not a person anymore. You're a precedent, a prophecy, a problem that cannot be solved, only survived. And they know it. Which is why they're not trying to stop you anymore. They're trying to contain the panic you trigger in those who see clearly. But clarity was never meant for the faint of heart. And you're not here to be understood. You're here to be felt. So smile, darling. Because while they're stuck inside simulations of what they think you are, you've already moved 10 dimensions past them. And the only trace you left behind was a shadow, grinning, a shadow, grinning. That's what the latest analyst wrote before walking off the assignment. Didn't say a word. Didn't file a resignation. Just left a sticky note on his desk. Whatever this is, it's not human psychology anymore. It's something else, and something else is the perfect description, isn't it? You were never a category. You were a contagion of redefinition. They built entire algorithms to predict you. And every time you moved, the algorithm rewrote itself. Let's be honest, you shattered their religion. Not the one made of temples and chants, but the one made of data, metrics, control. You desecrated their holy altar of logic by existing and refusing to obey gravity. They worshipped predictability. And you brought them a storm, a walking hypothesis they couldn't falsify because you kept evolving faster than their comprehension. Every time they built a box, you laughed. Then you became the box. Then you folded it inside out. Now the walls they once used to trap others, they're staring at them, wondering when they became mirrors. You've triggered more protocol updates than any single individual in classified history. Your existence alone sparked a level-red reflection crisis. Know what that means? It means they're not just scared of you. They're scared of what you reveal about them. Because you cracked the mask, and when people saw you, they started seeing their own costumes for what they were. You don't say much. You don't need to. Your silence is surgical. Your absence feels like surveillance. And your presence? It's like truth. Dressed in leather and laced with barbed wire. Unavoidable, unapologetic, unrelenting. You became the leak they couldn't patch. Every agency, every network. They've all got a Joker contingency now. Internal memos, black site instructions. If seen, do not engage. If approached, do not respond emotionally. If triggered, evacuate personnel and isolate belief systems. Let that sink in. Not evacuate the building. Evacuate belief systems. Because you don't destroy bodies, you infect perception. You whispered one sentence into the wrong ear, and a senator rewrote a bill. You posted one look, and 3 boardrooms reshuffled their hierarchy. No threats, no violence, no trace, just you. Your very existence is proof that the rules are made of sand, and now, even their fear is glitching. It doesn't know where to aim, because you're not on the radar. You are the malfunction in the radar. And here's the haunting truth they'll never admit aloud. They don't want to eliminate you. They want to understand you. Because deep down, they wish they could be you. They wish they could do what you did. Take betrayal and turn it into blueprint. Take trauma and forge a new species out of it. Take pain and use it like a weapon of mass perception. They want your eyes. They want your brain. They want your freedom. But they'll never have it. Because freedom, like yours, it's not handed out. It's stolen from the cracks between chaos and clarity. And that's why they fear you. Because you stole something from their gods, from their systems, from their control rooms. You stole unpredictability and made it look surgical. You stole logic and made it scream. You stole the narrative and turned it inside out. And now there are whispers in corridors where light never touches. Maybe he's not a man. Maybe he's a counter-narrative. Maybe he's not playing the game. Maybe he is the consequence. Maybe the system didn't fail him. Maybe he escaped it. And those whispers, they're getting louder. Because every time someone sees your face, something in them cracks. The part they hid, the part they buried, the part they medicated. It stirs, it breathes, it wakes up. You are not a person, you are a confrontation with everything they tried not to feel, everything they tried not to question. You are the pixel that doesn't match, the scream behind the smile, the glitch in the belief. And while they obsess over containing you, you've already multiplied. You've bled into frequencies. Your absence is being studied like radiation fallout. People are waking up and mirroring your silence, smiling when they should panic, walking through fire like it's morning routine, seeing through the veil and not blinking. You triggered something spiritual inside scientific systems. You turned shadows into instructors, and now the world is failing to reboot. Because the virus wasn't just you. It was the idea that one person could unravel the illusion by simply refusing to play by its rules. And you didn't just refuse. You burned the rule book. You laughed while they chased logic. And now they're left with nothing but empty graphs and echoing questions. You didn't play the game, darling. You rewrote the fucking objective. And the scoreboard? That's just your art gallery now, where broken minds hang their last analysis and hope it doesn't scream back. So go ahead, step back into the mist. Let them scramble, let them panic, let them chase reflections. Because the truth is, they never stood a chance against a mind like yours. You didn't just think differently, you thought dangerously, and now, sweet chaos incarnate. You're not being watched, you're being studied like a goddamn cosmic event. Welcome to the era of reverse surveillance, where they watch you and end up seeing themselves, shattered, exposed, and utterly unprepared. Utterly unprepared. Because that's what they'll never say on record. Not in courtrooms, not in task force briefings, not even in those little whisper-drenched panic rooms with biometric locks and artificial air. But it's the truth carved behind every look in their eyes. You caught them naked, not physically, intellectually, spiritually, strategically. They weren't ready for something that thinks like you, because you don't follow time, you fold it. You don't play offense or defense. You're the collapse of the field itself. And once they realized it wasn't what you did, but how you thought, that's when the fear metastasized. It became chronic. Because you're not a storm they can predict. You're the climate change of cognition. You're not a trend. You're a mutation. And mutations rewrite biology. They tried to chart your trauma on a graph, to dissect your decisions with clinical precision, but your pain, it wasn't random, it was strategic. While they were looking for signs of collapse, you were busy engineering evolution in secret. You didn't just get back up. You studied the anatomy of rock bottom. You mapped it, lived in it, turned it into a war room. Then you left with blueprints that make normal ambition look like child's play. And now the people who hurt you, they don't speak your name. Not because they're ashamed, but because your name triggers phenomena. It causes unease in the body, disruption in thought. Their own subconscious clenches at the memory of underestimating you. You became the unspeakable outcome. The what if they buried deep in denial, and still watched come true. And here's the killer twist. They thought you were healing, but you were building. They thought you were recovering, but you were constructing weapons made of perspective, silence, and strategic restraint. You see, they trained for war, but you were trained by betrayal. You didn't go through trauma. You were baptized in it. You didn't process it. You sharpened it until it cut reality in half. That's why when they tried to provoke you, you didn't flinch. Because you weren't reacting. You were recording, waiting, calculating. And when your moment came, you didn't fight. You let the truth walk in, wearing their fingerprints. They created you thinking you'd break. But instead, you bent the light around your name. And now, even their lies look distorted next to your existence. Let me tell you something they'll never admit. You made reality look weak. Because you took everything the world weaponized against you and made it your origin story. And no textbook, no training manual, no federal file can explain that. They don't know whether to label you a myth, or a warning, an icon, or a glitch, a threat, or a mirror. Because when people meet you, they meet the part of themselves they locked away. The rage they swallowed, the questions they silenced, the chaos they feared might be holy. You didn't escape the system, you infected it. And now, there's no going back. Every strategy they deploy becomes obsolete before they execute it. Because while they're still trying to define the perimeter, you're already inside the core, rewiring the rules of engagement. And the most terrifying part? You're still evolving, still sharpening, still silent, but more audible than sirens. You don't need to shout. Your very presence rearranges the nervous system. That's why rooms fall silent when you walk in. That's why hearts race before you speak. That's why those trained to control crowds flinch in your shadow. You are the ghost protocol they never prepared for. The anomaly that didn't just survive the purge. You became the purge. Not by force, but by frequency. You don't crash systems. You make them question themselves into deletion. And now they're trying to replicate you. Because deep inside the very agencies that once feared you, they're trying to build another you. Another mind forged from ruin. Another silence that sings. Another chaos-born thinker who can dismantle paradigms with a glance. But they don't realize you weren't built. You were forged by failure, betrayal, and darkness so intimate it kissed your spine. They can copy the variables, but they'll never duplicate the divine contradiction that is you. The angel with devil logic, the saint with vengeful precision, the ghost who remembers everything and forgives nothing. So let them try. Let them simulate. Let them run their experiments. You've already passed the phase of being watched. Now you're doing the watching. Because when the experiment looks back at the scientist and smirks, you know the balance of power has shifted forever.